Hey, it's Katie Moran. Welcome to Artistic Spirit. Today I'm here with Tom Bilyeu, and I am so excited because he is one of the people who made the biggest difference in my life. He coached me from suicidal to fulfilled, and I want to share that journey with you today and also give you takeaways that you can take to your own life. So Tom Bilyeu, the man who is building the next Disney, he's created and is bringing these stories to life like Project Kaizen, Mary Mods, Neon Future, and Hexagon. He's co-founder of Impact Theory and built a billion-dollar business with Quest. He started his career with filmmaking and the screenplay The Brazen Bull, from copywriter to partner in awareness technologies to building Quest, exiting on a Monday and starting Impact Theory on that Tuesday. And personally, I wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for his coaching and content. So let's jump in. You've been quoted in saying fulfillment is the only emotional state that is anti-fragile. And you define the path to fulfillment as gaining a set of skills that allow you to serve not only yourself, but other people in a way that you can find exciting and honorable. I would love to share one story about how this teaching transformed me in my life. In 2018, when I was in grad school, I was in an abusive relationship, and there was a night where I thought my ex was going to kill me. In that moment, I only had one regret. It was if I were to die right then and there, that I never wrote the fiction stories that I had ideas for. Fast forward to leaving that abusive relationship, taking a year off to write, becoming suicidal and psychotic in and out of hospitals, and having your coursework change my life. I wrote 3 books in 3 years, grew a following on X, and started interviewing poets as well as doing suicide prevention advocacy. In 2021, I choked on steak and faced another near-death experience. I was choking for about 4 minutes and had to be Heimlicked. I thought I was going to die again, and this time I had no regrets because I knew I lived with purpose. I wish that for everyone, and it's such a gift to feel at peace in your life, especially when you're facing what feels like it could be the end of it. And that's possible because of this teaching, the community you started, Tom, and my own accountability. So my question for you is, do you think creatives can have a full and fulfilling life without creating, or in as meaningful a way if they don't birth their ideas?
Katie, I'm going to do something to you that it drives me crazy when people do it to me, but now that I'm on the other side of it, I can actually understand it. Before I answer that question, which I will answer, I just have to acknowledge how amazing your story is. It's absolutely breathtaking. And I am not a person that will ever say, as long as I impacted one person, I'll be fine. But to be able to put such an incredible story as an outcome to the ideas that I try to propagate, because I don't think I come up with any of these ideas. I don't think any of us do. I just think they are universally true about the human mind. And each of us get a chance to push them out into the world in our own unique voice. So anyway, just I can't thank you enough. It's why I'm here today. You honor everything that these ideas stand for with your continued action. It's just unbelievable. Okay, now to actually answer your question. I think it is unwise of people to ignore the song that their heart is trying to sing. So I don't think that any of us are born to do a thing, but I think given the context of the world, your archetype of your personality will have certain outlets that are more obvious than others. And when I think about my own drives, desires, skill set, if I look back in history, I don't think I would have ever been the chieftain of a village, which you might expect from a CEO. What I would have been is the village storyteller. And I don't mean that cheaply. I mean that in the profound way of I feel like I really am wired to understand the human condition and to be able to convey that in a way that other people can glean something from and use in their life and deploy. I also think I'm good at what I call frame of reference. So, hey, all these things happen. But what story are you telling about those things? Because that story can be empowering or disempowering. Same facts, literally same facts. But what you decide they mean can be very different. So I think we're 50% hardwired, and I think we're 50% malleable. And if you are a writer, because there is just that song in your heart, you just cannot escape, that's how you interpret the world. I used to tell people, I think in movies. And I think in movies because stories like that, characters, moments, words, like they give me the scaffolding with which I have built my frame of reference. Now, not everybody builds their frame of reference in that same way, but that's certainly profoundly how I have. And when I lean into that, then my life makes sense and I feel good and I feel fulfilled. And all of the emotional states that one could want are possible. I won't say they're always present because life can be difficult and your frame of reference needs to be wisely put together. But it's possible. I'm not fighting against that 50% of me that's hardwired. So I had the same feeling as you. I got offered more than $1 million to write a nonfiction book about mindset, as you might imagine. And I turned it down. And I turned it down because I said, that will take a year of my life. And I I won't be on my deathbed. Literally, no matter what, whether it's tonight or 100 years from now, I will not be on my deathbed and say, I wish I'd written a book, because I put all the ideas out in video. So people need only avail themselves in the way that I've already put them out. I will regret not telling the stories that are in my heart. And so that is a really fascinating thing about the human mind, that my mind has this engine inside of it that I'll call a story engine. And that story engine kicks things off so hard. And I love so much living in those worlds and communicating with myself and others through the vehicle of those stories, that feels like a thing that, hey, ignore this at your own peril. That there is an algorithm in my brain running that says, don't ignore that, don't ignore that, don't ignore that. And so, look, I could go on a whole diatribe about why I think humans are like that and why there are these different archetypes. But I'll shorthand it to say we are a social species. We are not designed to be the same. We are designed to create homeostasis with a slight edge towards progress through dynamic tension. And that dynamic tension is by having a group of people that are slightly different and they all sort of pull on each other. When that tension gets out of balance or people stop valuing the tension, like when a parent tries to convince an artistic child to go into accounting, then pathology is born. But thinking that you're just hardwired and there isn't a part of you that's malleable is equally a mistake.
I completely agree. And I think there's a missing piece that not a lot of people talk about, which is accountability. So I have one more story, and it's around this idea of accountability. When I was in and out of the hospitals, nothing would break through to me. My anxiety was so bad when I stabilized that I would all day just turn on the shower and let the steam hit to try and relieve my anxiety. And I wasn't even taking showers. I was just having the steam, and I would do that throughout the day. And that was like my major task of the day, just to stabilize. And then I watched your self-care course, and you talked about mental illness and said, if holding yourself accountable seems like an attack, that you have a bias toward negative thinking. And that shifted something for me. I committed to holding myself accountable as a writer by writing a poem a week for a year and publishing it publicly online. This completely changed my life. My question for you is, why do you think creatives shy away from accountability or find it intimidating? And how can they learn to hold themselves accountable?
Because the creative act is a confrontation with your inadequacies. Every time you're writing a poem, you're thinking to yourself, why is this so hard for me? I bet it's easier for other people, and those other people are better than me, and not being the best really sucks. And so if I just find a way to avoid that confrontation, then I don't have to feel that way, and that way really sucks. I think the greatest thing about writing ever said was, nobody wants to write, everybody wants to have written. And I think that is very true. Nobody wants to be in the gym. Everybody wants to have gone to the gym. It's the same thing. It is a difficult thing. It is emotionally taxing. It will force you to confront that you can't write a poem that's as good as what you want to write, or a screenplay or whatever. It's never going to be as good as you want it to be. And so constantly coming up against that is brutal. And so this is where a fixed and a growth mindset come into play. If you believe that your talent and intelligence are fixed and that you're never going to get better, then why would you write if it's always disappointing? The only reason would be to write so that you can get better. And so the accountability becomes, well, I do this every day because I actually get better. And so what I'm holding myself accountable to isn't torturing myself. I'm holding myself accountable to the process that leads to improvement. Why do I want to do that? I want to do that because there's an algorithm running in every human being's mind, which is that you must work really hard to gain a set of skills that matter to you for whatever reason, that allow you, as you said at the top of this, to serve not only yourself, but other people. All of us have that algorithm, maybe minus sociopaths. So all of us have that algorithm. If you don't adhere to that, you will feel a profound sense of dis-ease. So I know the torture of self-contempt, but nonetheless, you have to do it. You have to face your inadequacies so that you can get better at this thing that matters to you, so that you may offer value to other people, so that you may use that algorithm, the evolutionarily planted algorithm, in your mind to your advantage, so that you feel a sense of progress, you feel a sense of service. I'm doing something with my abilities and my desires, things that I love, to serve myself and others. And if you do that, then now you're in a lane of fulfillment. If you don't do that, you will never be able to find that emotional equilibrium.
You talk a lot in business about playing the long game. How can creatives play the long game?
I mean, long game number one is you're going to get better. Long game number two is it takes a very long time to build an audience. Of course, there are some people that they're able to present themselves as a brand. That brand is the exact thing that the world needs right at that moment, and it will absolutely explode. But even that person probably spent a decade or more just honing the craft and getting better and better and better. It's going to be the rare person that picks up a pen for the first time or sits down at a keyboard for the first 6 months later, they've got 1 million followers. That's just not going to be the typical journey. So I think all of us, far better to look at yourself as a journeyman that's going to look back in 20, 30 years and say, whoa, I've come a really long way. And of course, we all want to be. Look, I think obsessively about writing the next Harry Potter. Oh, I just could not want that more. But at the same time, I recognize that's gonna be tough. And so better to see myself as a journeyman that's, just one piece after another and get a little bit better each time you put something out there. And then hopefully one day something hits at least for a reasonable number of people. And then, hopefully your body of work is something interesting. And I'll give people, this is a real story. I don't remember the school, but there is an art professor that gives students at the beginning of the semester a choice. They can either do one piece of amazing art, spend the whole semester on it, making it perfect, or they can be graded on art by the pound, meaning literally, I'm just going to weigh your pieces. And because this is like a sculpture class. And so however many pieces you do, and whatever they weigh, then that will be your grade. And what they found is that every year, the winner comes from the art by the pound group, not because it's just they actually have a lot of weight. It's because by doing something over and over and over and over and over with an eye towards getting better, you end up just making a better piece than the person that only creates one piece, because they're just not going to get enough better. So even though they have a lot of time to really perfect that thing, the person over here that just does the volume inevitably gets better than the artist that thinks it's all about time and quality.
Yeah, that has me thinking about specifically the act of creativity and what we bring to it. And I was wondering if your frame of reference has specifically impacted the way you write or any of your characters. Like, I know I saw posts a while back about you and your dad and how he impacted you, and you really got your love of movies watching martial arts movies with him, and Buckaroo Banzai. And I just thought that was so interesting. And I was wondering if that's where the storyline, or if it influenced at all, the relationship between Don and his father Leo in Hexagon.
Yeah, I mean, look, you cannot help but put yourself into stories.
Mhm.
So I think at the level of theme, so Don and his father were really three guys behind the scenes. So Don Diablo, who we partnered with on that, like his big thing was, I want this to be the story of a father and son. That was just super important to him. So you've got some of his DNA in there. Then you've got me as the studio executive being like, okay, these are the themes that I like and would want to see play out. And then you have the writer, Michael Morisi, who obviously like is the one typing the words. And so it's going to have a
Mhm.
huge impact. And so all of us are drawing from the different relationships that we have. At the end of the day, I'll credit Michael Morisi the most because he's just the one sort of there in the thick of it.
Mhm.
Um, and even as a studio exec, you learn really fast, man. The writer ends up being everything. And if you get an amazing writer, then your job is to get out of their way. If you have a terrible writer, no matter how much time you try to put into it, unless you're prepared to just take it over and write it yourself, good luck.
Mhm. And thinking about writing, so I frequently ask my audience questions about writing, and a common theme is starting a new project before finishing and no plan to promote. Taking it back to this idea of earning self-respect, how can creatives become the person who finishes and promotes their work? Because it takes courage to start and strength to finish. You say in one of the endings of Hexagon, the comic, that strength can't be given, it must be earned. How can creatives earn this strength? And is it more than grit?
Okay, so strength, like anything, comes from repetitions and constantly pushing your boundaries. So you're going to need to do things that are progressively more difficult, and you need to stick through them when they get hard. The number one thing that I say to myself when something gets hard is simply that I'm trying to become a warrior. And as a warrior, you are going to have to face pain, suffering, hard time, hardships. And so for just that reason, I'm going to keep going through this hard thing. Now, that's my frame of reference. That's language that works for me. People need to find that thing that works for them. But when you, from my perspective again, when you are
Mhm.
a warrior that is trying to protect other people, all of a sudden it becomes very easy. Like, I'm going to see this through. I'm going to push through. Literally, just before this call, I ran into another very hard thing. And just saying this to you now is making me feel like, okay, I got this. It
Mhm.
is crazy how if you have a frame of reference that speaks to you, and in those difficult moments, you can say, why am I doing this? And you have an answer that is compelling to you, man, does it get a whole lot easier. So yeah, people need to do progressively more difficult things. They need to have an understanding of why they're doing it, what they're fighting for. And when you are tempted to quit, to give up, you need to remember on the other side of this, I will actually have a deeper skill set. I will have more resilience. And one thing I want people to understand is resilience and skill set allow you to do things other people can't do. These are not abstract things to have just to be like you collect them like you would collect a Pokemon. This is like, it's a thing that you can use on a daily basis to do things that will make your life better. It will make you a better parent. It will make you a better friend. It will make you better in your career. It will make you a better writer. Everything will get better on the other side of this. But you have to have thought about the fact, oh, if I push through this, I will get stronger. And if I back off, I'll either be neutral or I'll actually get weaker because I will have told myself I'm not capable of this thing. So yeah, you're not a worse person if you make bad decisions, meaning bad, it doesn't move you towards your goal. You're not a worse person, but you will be capable of less. And so your life may get worse. And that's where, I really, one of the things that I want to be the value that I give to the world is simply an understanding. This isn't a moral judgment on you, but it very much is there are algorithms running in your mind that are going to make you feel good or bad about yourself. And if you have a value system and you live in accordance with that value system, you will respect yourself. And if you respect yourself, all is well. If you have a value system and you live out of accordance with that, then you will not respect yourself and things will not be well. And so people have to be very thoughtful about the way the human mind works and then act accordingly. And building that muscle, building that resilience through repetition will just give you a better life. Even if you end up ultimately, by your own definition, being a failed writer, your life will still be 1,000 times better.
You've been quoted as saying, I want to be who I really am, which was transformational when you stopped chasing money and created a sense of fulfillment. What advice would you give to artists who are unwilling to compromise on who they are, but also are on the fence about building a personal brand?
Okay, so one, now we get into the nitty gritty of the reality. So another thing I don't want to be is somebody that spouts bumper stickers but can't actually acknowledge the true mess that is life. Okay, you ultimately are going to have to embrace that to build a social following, you must be a brand, which means that there are going to be elements of your personality that you don't pursue. For instance, I couldn't love history anymore if I tried, but I don't do interviews on history, even though I would love that. One, because the people that I see doing history podcasts, they're not that big. And then two, that isn't what people have already come to me for. And so, one, I would have to abandon the audience I've already built to build that audience. And two, when I look at it, it's just not a super big niche. So the person that you see doing the interviews and the interviews that I do are all interviews I really care about, but they're a slice of who I am and what I care about. And that is necessary. Like when you're building a brand, you need to pick a niche and stick with it. If Brandon Sanderson, I think that's his name, if he were to write a romantic comedy, he's going to lose his audience, right? If he wants to explore those themes, he needs to nest it inside of a fantasy novel. And so that may frustrate him. He may want to write, 30 bad dates or whatever. But the reality is his audience is going to be like, this is not, they may even like those kind of things, but that's not what they turn to him for. And so we all have to be realistic about that reality. That unfortunately just is true. So you want to tell stories that you legitimately care about, but you want to understand that once you start telling a story, that's the kind of thing that people are coming to you for. And if you step outside of that, you're not starting over, but you're going to lose. I mean, it could be 80 to 90% of your audience. You just have to be honest about that. And then if you try to do that on the same social channel that you've already built, not only could you lose a massive amount of your audience, you could really make it hard for you to grow. But if you just start a new channel, then hey, you can grow that. This gets very complicated in the real weeds of like actually scaling social following. So yeah, dear writers, you have to understand that your job is twofold. One, write really amazing things that people really want to read. And two, either learn marketing yourself or get a partner who doesn't know how to write, but wants to market an author. Those are your only two choices because the marketing must be done. And if you don't do it, your stories will never reach a broad audience. It just is that simple. Marketing is simply the ability to cut through the clutter and get people's attention. And so you must be able to do that.
Thank you so much, Tom. And thank you for all the ways you've impacted me and every life I've touched since.
Katie, thank you. And good Lord, I really think you're going to touch just a tremendous number of lives. And I'm so honored to have been some small piece of your journey. It's really incredible. And I pray that you just never stop and you just keep going. And look, you don't need a big audience to have a big impact. So whether you end up getting the millions and millions of people in your corner that I suspect you will or not, just keep doing it. You are a light in my life. So I can only imagine what you will be to people that really see themselves in everything that you do.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.